Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time right here with the Adapt 2030 channel. Brazil going to buy United States, Canadian, and Russian wheat. Argentina supplies dwindling, nothing. How are we going to move that? Mississippi River, persistent dry, barges stuck, nothing moving. U.S. drought monitor, oh my, look at it this way. Highest ever since 1998. Dust Bowl might be equivalent. Russia stops corridors of grains leaving the Black Sea. And farmers in Brazil, they're going to hold also their soy crop in anticipation of rising prices. Let's take a look at how Argentina's economy collapsed. 2001 parallels adoption of GM foods. Oh, they just changed GMO labeling to biofortified. What kind of surprises do you think that could hold? And it is about to get nasty on the food front and the inflation front across the planet. Here we go. Year without a summer inbound Southern Hemisphere. Brazil to buy U.S., Canadian, and Russian wheat as Argentine supplies dwindle. Remember that eruption from Tonga back in January 2022 now having an effect. Water vapor in the atmosphere. Plantings, growings affected. So Brazil's a net wheat importer, and they do rely heavily on Argentina, which is suffering from a drought, third La Nina. So generally, Brazil gets about 6 million tons alone from Argentina. Now, when that's gone, where does it come from? And speaking of Argentina, interest rates are going to be about 75 to 100%, and that was September 15th. Oh, what a difference a month makes. And as we jump into Brazil, they're going to start holding back on sales of the next soy crop because they're also betting this triple La Nina is going to increase the drought and their prices are going to go northward to the moon. So look at all this resource nationalism already happening. And if we take a look at the soybeans here, inspections by marketing year, blue is this year. Vertical, I'm wondering if that'll taper off somewhere following the 2022 red year for exports. We'll soon see, because we need to also add in, remember, Kazakhstan was banning any feed wheat and barley, and they are definitely in the top 10 exporters across the planet for 6 months. But remember, this is back in the middle of July, so we got until middle of December, January before this will alleviate. So where is all the extra grain going to come from is the question, because this is the blow here that is going to send prices and availability to levels that I don't think we've ever seen, at least not in the last 200 years. Russia on Saturday suspending participation in the United Nations Black Sea grain deal corridor. Seems that there was a fair few drones that nailed some of their ships, and they're like, nah, we're not playing that anymore. Russia suspending participation on the United Nations brokered grain export deal. There's an enormous amount of stories out and about on this. This is a huge headline, especially jumping into the beginning of the week to lead off with. Reuters picking it up, every other place across the planet too. This is going to usher in a real global food crisis. Before we start, just a quick word from our sponsor. It's true carnage in the stock market, unlike anything we've seen. The average stock is down 41.7% from its 52-week high. More interest rates are expected. Meanwhile, gold is down only 8%, so it's proven to be a source of protecting wealth and a hedge against inflation. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has a no-fee-for-life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver, and you may qualify for the no-fee-for-life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Give them a call, 888-546-7020 to get your free investor guide today. And now on with the video. It's the real deal on this one. When I was speaking at this agricultural conference a couple weeks ago, two of the speakers were saying that if this grain corridor didn't open up, and this is way before this drone bombardment last night on the Russian ships when they closed it off. They were talking just in general when it was coming back up in the middle of November for a look to see would it be honored again and would it be 2.0 and it can continue with the exports. They were saying if that did not open, coming in November that the availability of grains on the dairy side, on the cattle side, feedstock for ethanol side would just not be there. So it would create a cascading wave of failures across the planet for those to be able to secure supply. Now this has all happened, ED, right now, the weeks in advance of even the worst case scenarios. So look at that play out. Tonga eruptions really affecting Southern Hemisphere crop production, and the planting season's being delayed, and then the drought's there, the triple La Nina, South America really struggling, and then Brazil just says, oh, we know that, so we're going to withhold soy, and Argentina is going to withhold the wheat. And how is this going to be transported across the globe? It's nice for Brazil to say, yeah, we're going to get Canadian wheat, American wheat, and wait, Russian wheat's not coming now. And the U.S., look at this shallow Mississippi rivers continuing, and they anticipate that once the snows begin, there'll be no more abundant water coming down until the melt season, which goes along with the projections. Also, the ag guys on the risk assessment side, April is when they were looking at for high water to unlock all the bottlenecks and super glue of all the barges that stuck up through the mud banks. And it's a contagion happening across the world's grain supplies here. Low water, Mississippi River, persistent. That's not going to go away anytime soon. So I just don't know how Brazil's going to export all this American grain. They're not. And if we do want to look at the U.S. drought monitor, this is an interesting factoid here. 75% of the grains in America are under extreme drought duress. Obviously the reds, dark reds, and let's bring it up here. Look at the spring wheat, winter wheat. 75% of all wheat in America at the moment is under extreme drought. Soybeans, 71% of that. So we can start to just add these numbers up, and Brazil's going to be looking for supply, China as well. But putting it more into a graph format here, take a look. This goes way back into the 1990s to see anything at these proportions. And when you go back to 2013 or so, we got into that super spike of grains because of the same conditions. In addition to the inavailability across the planet, it will be a super spike like never seen before. And staying with Chile in South America, protests still rocking the country. It's all about the farmers, and this new constitution of who's going to own the land and the water rights is going to deny them the right to use water for irrigation. So that's just another thing to throw into the whole mix here to start to think about how much grain's really going to come out of there. And then we got Latin America territories. This is from Insurance Insider that's actually paying claims after damage due to whatever factor it is, saying that there's been a surge in civil unrest. 358, that's a 3.58 increase. Now this is all driven by the same things. Debasement of currency, hyperinflation, record inflation, food costs, and cost of living just spiraling out of control. Tidal waves here. This is really scary news to look through. Just on all these bottlenecks happening at the same time. Got the natural bottlenecks. The grains aren't moving on the Mississippi. They're not going to be coming from Canada down the Mississippi. Rail space is non-existent. You can't just flip that over to trucks either. Some of those grain shuttles, those grain barges that you see these pictures of where they're stuck on the river, each one of those contains 70 18-wheeler truck full. So you just can't take that and just move it to trucks. Wherever we look, there's a problem with food across the planet. Distant early warning. Keep your eyes focused on the Southern Hemisphere when they're going to try to plant this year. It's going to be extremely delayed due to, like I said, that Tonga eruption. Done many a video on it, did the presentations on it. It's here, and it's all happening right now. That's why I'm saying it's going to get nasty with the food pricing and availability right about now. Which I want to talk about the past for a moment, Argentina's collapse. We'll take you back to 2001, worst case scenario, because it looks like we are just going to repeat this 2.0. Taking a step back in history, this is 2010 this article was written, but it is so pertinent, so timely. Well, what can we learn from this? Collective vulnerability to economic and political stressors, as in plural, multiple stress points. Diving into the article here, after the collapse, there was a spontaneous emergence of barter markets. And see, that is a very positive thing to look at. So you might, want to put your head in the sand and go, no, it's just all going to collapse and there won't be, and the corporates won't give it, and there'll be digital rationing cards in the stores, and I won't have access to food for my kids. Okay, hold on, take a deep breath. You need to take a breath. these spontaneous barter markets emerged for necessary goods, services, foods, medicines, etc., and it provided greater regional stability. This was a great understanding on how things moved into the necessities, took care of themselves. The emerging barter markets, what does that really mean though? So it's a local production in value-added areas, food, wood, firewood, specialty commodities like honey and medicines, anything that could be used for personal needs. But again, the key takeaway is value. You have to provide value when this happens. You can't be a scammer and take, because you're going to get taken out if you do that. And then the cultural phenomena, many supermarkets were completely shut down early on. That is a huge flag there. Early on. Why? Looters broke in and emptied the shelves. So if you think that the supermarkets are going to continue to roll on in the same fashion they are, I've been saying since the beginning of the year and even in the middle of last year as we approach the end of 2022, there will be armed guards in supermarkets across America. So then you also see the strikes, the citizen strikes, non-workage of Argentinian citizens against banks, businesses, multinational corporations, and then everything literally shut because nobody wanted to work. They just said, no, we're not going to work. Once that state of emergency pops off, then we might go back to work, but larger cities and urban areas experienced much higher degrees of breakdowns and social cohesion because nobody knew each other. So the cities definitely not going to be a very safe place to be. And this is Venezuelan bolivars here just littering. Can you imagine when this really had value in the money? If you would have seen that on the street, that'd be like one of those bank cars that you see stories of occasionally that open up and money's flying all over the highway and people slamming their brakes on and causing traffic accidents to get out and get the money. But look at that, it's laying in the gutter. That's how worthless it became. So that's a chapter from history. I learned so much. It's a rather lengthy article. I just pulled those few things out there, little nuggets for you. Links in the description box below. Highly encourage you to read that. And then there's subsequent links to other articles as you go through the bottom. And then they give the credits for where did they source that information from. And what also was talked about in there, I didn't screen grab, but the currency initially when it had its first drop, it dropped to 4 to 1. It used to be a 1 to 1 for a dollar for an Argentinian peso. But then that kind of broke. And then it was 4 Argentinian pesos to $1. All these things started to happen, and then the money stabilized a little bit up to about 3 pesos for a dollar, and then that's when it let loose, it broke. And then you started to see like the 130 to 1, that sort of thing. But in that interim, there was some stability, and things did manage to continue moving forward. But another takeaway, everybody was welcome that provided value. Thieves, they were taken out back, and they were taken care of. Nobody played anymore at that point. It was too much of a life or death situation. So people are going to take care of themselves and be on the side of good and fair value trade, and you shall be fine. I was just reading heartwarming stories about, people giving true value and how welcomed and protected they were. They really protected their own. So, you got that going for you, but you got to get out of the cities because that mechanism did not work in urban centers. It just totally broke down there. That's why they call the army in. You just didn't want to be there. Cities were a bad place to be. So keep that in the back of your brain, how situations in the breakdowns do still offer you some level of protection in the countryside. And the adoption of genetically engineered crops in the United States, 1996 to 2022. Each one has its own color. How beautiful. Soybean, cotton, corn. So you can see HT, which is herbicide tolerant, and BT were insect resistant varieties. So you might know one of those is Roundup Ready, which is the herbicide tolerant variety. So what does that mean for you and I? Well, they've recently just changed the GM labeling to biofortified. So if you're looking at your labels and you want to read the food label, you're looking for new words. Biofortified. Hope that helps you, get ready for the changes because, raccoons, they're just little varmints in my opinion, but look how persistent and tenacious they are. We're going to have to become the raccoon as we move through. In the smallest of doorways, there's going to be opportunity. And see, that's the thing to remember. There's always going to be opportunity, even if it is a narrow doorway. You're going to have to seek out these opportunities and embrace them. Our world is absolutely changing right now so fast. And this is just what has happened through the video here. My video recorder broke down, so those a few of those parts I was narrating, but we'll just have to stay with the audio on that. I didn't catch it till right at the end of the video here. This is a game-changing series of events that have just taken place here with the resource pullbacks and Brazil saying with the soy they're going to keep it. Ukraine not having any grain exports further, no fertilizer either. So this is really going to take hold now. It's in play to the point it's going to be affecting your life here very soon. So I wish you the best through the holidays here. Halloween's upon us, the end of October. What does November and December bring? But if you are looking for storable foods, my Patriot Supply and Adapt 33-month emergency food supply. That link's in the description box below, as well as Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, every 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. Ransom Godwin and myself going uncensored 2 hours, streaming across 8 different video platforms and umpteen audio platforms, anywhere you want to listen to live broadcast. Hope you got something out of the video, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.